The first time I set foot on the island, a cold wind whipped my face, carrying with it the salty tang of the sea and a hint of something darker, more ancient. Towering walls of the abyss loomed before me, their gray stones seemingly absorbing the light around them. Birds didn't fly here, and the surrounding dense forests whispered secrets of creatures yet undiscovered. I am Alexia Hart, a journalist by profession, but today, I felt more like an intruder stepping into a world where I didn't belong. My grandmother's tales of monsters, both good and bad, echoed in my mind. She always said, "Not all monsters are born, some are made." I never truly understood what she meant until now. As I approached the entrance, the massive gates creaked open, revealing a labyrinth of corridors and cells. The warden, a tall man with piercing blue eyes and a demeanor colder than the island's winds, greeted me. "Miss Hart," he began, his voice dripping with faux warmth. "Welcome to the Abyss. I trust you'll find our residence enlightening." The island was a stark contrast to the bustling cities of the mainland. Here, time seemed to stand still. The only sounds were the distant roars and murmurs from the depths of the prison and the occasional rustling of leaves from the forest. Every now and then, a spiritual guide, a shimmering entity, would flit between the trees, watching silently. On my first day, I was introduced to several monsters, each with its unique ability. One could manipulate shadows, making them dance and twist at his will. Another could read minds, her eyes always filled with a sadness that spoke of the horrors she'd seen. But what struck me most wasn't their abilities. It was the humanity in their eyes, the longing, the regret, the hope. That night, as I settled into my quarters, a soft knock echoed through the silence. Opening the door, I found a note. Scribbled in hurried handwriting, it read, "Not everything is as it seems. Trust your instincts." I clutched the note, my heart racing. My journey into the abyss had only just begun, and I was determined to uncover its secrets. The days that followed were a whirlwind of interviews, observations, and late-night scribblings. Each monster had a story, a past that led them to the abyss. Some tales were of heartbreak, others of betrayal, but all were tinged with a sense of injustice. One evening, as the sun cast a golden hue over the island, I met Lorian, a creature with scales that shimmered like opals and eyes that held the depth of the ocean. "I was once human," she whispered, her voice melodic yet filled with sorrow. "I fell in love with someone I shouldn't have, and those in power transformed me into this." She gestured to her form, a mix of beauty and monstrosity. "But my heart remains human." Her revelation sent chills down my spine. The transformation spells weren't just myths, they were real, wielded by those who sought control. The lines between monsters and men blurred further in my mind. As days turned into nights, I began to notice patterns. Many of the monsters spoke of a forbidden room within the abyss, a place where no one, not even the guards, ventured. My journalistic instincts kicked in, and I decided to investigate. Late one night, guided by the soft glow of the spiritual guides, I found myself standing before a heavy iron door, its surface etched with symbols that seemed to shift and move. Taking a deep breath, I pushed it open. Inside, the room was filled with mirrors, each reflecting a different scene. I watched as humans were forcibly transformed into monsters, their screams echoing in the silence. Another mirror showed the warden, laughing with a group of cloaked figures as they plotted to maintain their reign of terror. But it was the last mirror that held my gaze. It showed my parents, young and in love, being cornered by a group of monsters. But as I looked closer, I realized they weren't monsters. They were humans, transformed by the same forbidden spell. The attack on my parents wasn't random. It was orchestrated. A noise behind me made me whirl around. The warden stood there, his eyes no longer cold but burning with rage. "You shouldn't have come here," he hissed. I backed away, my heart pounding. The truth was unraveling, and I was at its epicenter. The warden, the orchestrator of this web of lies, was now my adversary, But I wasn't alone. The spirits of the forest, the monsters with human hearts, were with me. The battle for the truth had begun. The warden lunged at me, his form shifting and contorting, revealing his true monstrous nature. His skin turned a deep shade of crimson, and his fingers elongated into sharp talons. The room's mirrors reflected our standoff, amplifying the tension. But I wasn't defenseless. The spirits of the forest, sensing my peril, materialized around me, their ethereal forms glowing with a soft luminescence. Lorien, too, had followed me, her scales reflecting the room's eerie light. "You've delved too deep, Miss Hart," the warden snarled, his voice echoing with malevolence. "You should have left the past buried." But I was resolute. "The world needs to know the truth," I retorted, my voice unwavering. "You can't hide behind your lies any longer." The warden roared, summoning guards transformed into grotesque creatures. The room became a battleground. Lorien, with her aquatic abilities, summoned water from the very air, creating barriers and ensnaring the guards. The spirits, with their ancient wisdom, chanted incantations, weakening the warden's power. In the midst of the chaos, I spotted a mirror different from the others. It shimmered with a golden hue and pulsed with energy. An idea formed in my mind. If the warden had used the mirrors to manipulate reality, perhaps this one could reverse the transformations. With Lorien and the spirits holding the line, I approached the mirror, placing my hand on its cool surface. Images flashed before my eyes. The transformed humans, their lives stolen, their identities erased. I focused on them, pouring all my energy, my hope, my determination into the mirror. A blinding light erupted, enveloping the room. When it subsided, the guards were humans once more, their monstrous forms gone. The warden, weakened and outnumbered, was captured. Lorien, her human form restored, smiled at me, tears of joy in her eyes. "You did it," she whispered. But our victory came at a cost. The energy required to reverse the transformations had drained the spirits, causing them to fade away, their purpose fulfilled. As dawn broke, the abyss, once a place of darkness and despair, became a beacon of hope. The truth about the monsters, the injustices they faced, and the warden's treachery was revealed to the world. The sun's rays illuminated the abyss, casting away the shadows that had once dominated its halls. The island, which had been a symbol of fear and oppression, was now buzzing with activity. Journalists, human rights activists, and families of the transformed flocked to its shores, seeking answers and reunions. I stood at the prison's entrance, watching as former monsters embraced their loved ones, their tears a testament to their lost years. Lorien, now fully human, was reunited with her family, their joy palpable in the air. The warden, stripped of his power and influence, was put on trial. The world watched as testimonies were given, revealing the depth of his deceit and cruelty. The verdict was unanimous. He would spend the rest of his life in the abyss, a prisoner in the very institution he once ruled. As days turned into weeks, the abyss underwent a transformation. The cells were dismantled, the walls torn down, and in their place, a memorial was erected. It stood as a reminder of the past's atrocities and the resilience of the human spirit. My exposé on the abyss became a sensation, shedding light on the blurred lines between monsters and men. But more than the accolades and recognition, it was the personal stories of redemption and reunion that touched my heart. My parents, though gone, had left me with a legacy of seeking the truth, and I had honored their memory. One evening, as I walked through the dense forests surrounding the abyss, I felt a familiar presence. The spirits of the forest, though faded, were still there, watching over the island. They whispered their gratitude, their voices a gentle caress against my soul. Lorien joined me, her hand in mine. "The world has changed," she mused, looking at the horizon. "But some things remain constant." I nodded, thinking of my grandmother's tales, the lessons they held, and the journey I had undertaken. "Yes," I replied. "The quest for truth, the fight for justice, and the belief that even in the darkest moments, there's always a glimmer of hope. We stood there, two souls forever changed by the abyss, looking forward to a future where monsters were just myths, and every individual, regardless of their past, had a chance at redemption. Months had passed since the revelations of the abyss. The world had moved on, headlines shifted, and new stories took center stage. But for me, the memories of the island, its secrets, and its inhabitants remained etched in my mind. One evening, as I sat in my apartment, poring over old notes and photographs, a chill ran down my spine. The sensation was unmistakable. I was being watched. I glanced around, half expecting to see a shadow lurking in the corner, but the room was empty. The feeling persisted, growing stronger with each passing day. Whispers echoed in the silence, and fleeting shadows darted just out of sight. The line between reality and paranoia blurred, and I found myself questioning my sanity. Desperate for answers, I sought out experts in the supernatural. They spoke of residual energies, of spirits bound to places or individuals, and of the dangers of delving too deep into the unknown. One elder, her eyes clouded with age but sharp with wisdom, gave me a warning. The abyss may be closed, but its energies remain. You've awakened something, and it seeks closure. Determined to confront this lingering fear, I returned to the island. The once imposing structure of the abyss was now a solemn memorial, but the forests retained their ancient aura. As night fell, I ventured into their depths, guided only by the soft glow of the moon. There, in a clearing, I came face to face with the source of my torment, the warden. But he was no longer the powerful, menacing figure I remembered. Instead, he appeared as a lost soul, trapped between worlds, his form flickering like a dying flame. "Why have you returned?" he rasped, his voice filled with anguish. "To end this," I replied, my voice steady. "You're bound to this place, to me, because of your deeds. But it's time to let go." The warden's eyes, once filled with malice, now held a deep sadness. "I was consumed by power, by greed," he whispered. "But in death, I've come to realize the weight of my actions." With a deep breath, I extended my hand, calling upon the spirits of the forest. They emerged, their forms shimmering, surrounding the warden. A soft light enveloped him, and as it faded, he was gone, leaving behind only the whispering winds and the rustling leaves. The weight that had pressed upon my soul lifted, replaced by a sense of peace. The abyss's legacy, both its horrors and its lessons, would remain, but its ghosts were finally at rest. As I left the island, the first rays of dawn painted the sky. A new day, a new beginning. The world was full of mysteries, of stories waiting to be told, and I, Alexia Hart, would be there to uncover them, always seeking the truth, no matter where it led.